Alright guys, so we're back at it again with the showdown between the High Elves led by Teclis and the Tomb Kings, who are going to be led by Cetra the Imperishable. So as far as my army composition goes, I do have a very heavy core of the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, and I definitely feel like they're one of the unsung heroes in this matchup. Aside from that, I have a bunch of Spearmen in the front line, and honestly, I think that's the way to go. The Tomb Kings don't really have the best infantry. If we look over here, I think they have Skeleton Warriors and Tomb Guards. Tomb Guards are actually somewhat strong, 42 weapon strength with pretty good sustained combat stats, but it's still going to take them a while to get through the Spearmen. And Elite Infantry for the High Elves, if you're going with like White Lions and Swordmasters and Phoenix Guard against the Tomb Kings, it's a little bit risky because most Tomb Kings players are going to spam Ushabti Great Bows. So you can see here he does have 3 Ushabti Great Bows, all of which could really tear apart Elite High Elf Infantry. They're good against Dragon Princes, they're good at taking down Star Dragons, just such a powerful unit against the High Elves. So one of the best ways to deal with these bad boys, in my opinion, is to go very heavy on the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. So these things do have a 380 range compared to the 255 of Ushabti Great Bows. Let's go ahead and check just to be sure. And yes, the Ushabti Great Bows do indeed have 255. So the Bolt Throwers can apply some really good pressure on those guys, tear them down, and if you don't give the High Elves that many great targets to shoot at with the Ushabti Great Bows, you can definitely mitigate a lot of their value. So in the back we have 3 of those, each of which is going to be guarded by a group of spears in case he has Carrion or Skeleton Horsemen or some other funny business in the back line. For the front, we just have 3 groups of spearmen who obviously aren't going to win this front line engagement, which is really strange when you're playing against Tomb Kings to not win the front line. But they're obviously just there to kind of hold things in place and allow my Dragon Princes and some of my Illyrian Reavers to do the heavy lifting. So I definitely think bringing 1 group of Dragon Princes at the very least, and maybe even 2 in this matchup, is probably going to be very solid. They can charge down Ushabti Great Bows. They do get taken out pretty hard by like Necrosphinxes and some of the other constructs, simply because Dragon Princes don't really have the best armor piercing. If you look here, they have 44 weapon strength with only 12 of that being AP. But still, I think they're very good for like clearing out chaff units and opening the way for your more, for your more anti-large stuff to get in there. We do also have 2 groups of the Illyrian Reaver Archers, which honestly I like Illyrian Reavers quite a bit for dealing with skeletons and just rear charging them and breaking them. So what I do is I get my spears in the front line and then I rear charge with the Illyrian Reaver Archers, who still have very good melee stats. And I think that the regular variant without the bows, like I think their stat line is almost the exact same. They might have a little bit better like melee defense or something, but really I think you might as well take the Archers. It's only like 100 or 200 gold more and it gives you so much more utility. So this is also the last and most important part of the build in my opinion, and you guys have seen this, is Teclis. So Teclis with not with Benedict Cucumber Patch, oh man, I'm just out of it today. So Teclis right here with Nets of Amnitok, Flaming Sword of Rune for the Alpha Strike with Nobles, and Regrowth are going to be very good here. You also need 2 Nobles on horseback, so if you get them on Eagle or on the Chariots, they don't have anti-large and AP, but this is one of your best answers to Tomb King's Lords and Constructs and things like that, and it definitely gives you some really good utility on the battlefield. So that's pretty much it for my army composition, and a lot of you guys had seen this build in previous replays, and I'd heard a lot of people say that it's not a good match. I mean, in my opinion, it is a very bad matchup for the High Elves. The Tomb Kings, and just generally speaking, are more of a top tier factions. They have much higher power level in my opinion. But I do think that the High Elves do have a chance of winning, and I personally think that these Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers and the Cav and then the Noble Goon Squad is one of the best ways to do it. So for my opponent over here, the mighty Romulan Dog, he does have the Chosen of the Gods Ushabti, a couple Great Bows, who you can already see are taking quite a bit of damage from those Bolt Throwers. So he has 3 of those guys in the front line, combination of Skeleton Warriors and Tomb Guards, which is definitely good. I think you probably want to mix in some Tomb Guards, so I like that choice quite a bit. He does have the Skeleton Archers here in the back, and it looks like they're just going to be the regular ones. No Blessed Legion, some Skeleton Spears in the flanks to deal with Dragon Princes, 1 group in the back, and then he does also have the Natural Ushabti. So definitely a strong army. For his leadership, he does have Cetra the Imperishable on the Kemrian War Sphinx, which is going to be tough, for sure. I mean, if I can get Teclis and the 2 Nobles really isolating Cetra away from some of his supporting units, we might be able to take him out. But it's certainly going to be tough. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now you can see my Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers are shooting in there and doing some very good damage against the Ushabti Great Bows. I've already actually killed a model, which is really good. In the meantime, I figured, I was like, okay, it's a little bit overextended here, so I'm going to jump in there and use a Net of Amnitok and lock these guys down and see if I can get a charge. So my 2 Nobles are coming in, but it looks like the Cetra is coming in as well, so I'm going to have to try and get some quick value here and then pull back. So my opponent right here does use the Narrow's Incantation of Protection to give them the 44% ward save, so definitely getting some good value. But we're also wearing down the Ushabti Great Bows, and this is a large portion of his army. That's about 3,000 gold here, a little bit more. So if I can get them down before the main fighting starts, that's going to be huge. So my 2 Nobles in there are fighting pretty hard, but Cetra comes in, and even though he's on an anti-infantry beast, it's still very good in like hero dueling situations. So my Noble takes a lot of damage. I was definitely very bummed to have taken that much early on, and I will be pulling back here, but still we got some okay damage on those Ushabti Great Bows. We did kill a model, and the other Ushabti Great Bow, take a look at this, guys, is going down very, very quick to that Bolt Thrower Fire. And also, it's very far back, and Tomb Kings are a slow faction, so even if he breaks through my front line here, he's going to have to march very far the entire time he's going to be taking a bolt thrower fire, which is good. So some of his archers did overextend a little bit. My Dragon Princes are going to get in and just smash those guys, smashing that like button in there and doing a pretty good job in the river. And I also get a kind of a 2-for-1. I surround those Ushabti Great Bows, so now that these ones are dealt with and they're crumbling, I'm just going to be switching my bolt throwers onto those Ushabti Great Bows. So that was definitely good, getting one of those skeleton archers pretty much crumbling and off the battlefield, and those Ushabti Great Bows only have about 500 HP and are crumbling pretty quick. But in the meantime, though, my Dragon Princes are getting surrounded a little bit. You can see Cetra gets in there and with her, I don't know, I always think Cetra, like, it kind of sounds like a chick's name. But anyway, Cetra's getting in there and doing some really good armor-piercing damage to my Dragon Princes, so I do have to pull back. And in the meantime, I just got all 3 of my Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, and I switched them onto the Ushabti Great Bows. In the back line, my Illyrian Reavers are just harassing him, trying to shut down his regular archers, just getting rid of his ranged power, so I could have a kind of freedom here. And I do charge in, but these were Tomb Guard. I actually thought they were Skeleton Warriors, and I could just buckle them, so it was a bit of a mistake on my part. And you can see my Reavers here are in a very bad situation. I mean, the Tomb Guards still have 42 weapon strength, which is very good. It's actually more than the Grave Guard for the Vampire counts, and even the one with the great weapons. So, but that kind of opened up a pocket here because he's committing most of his resources here. So if I actually was paying attention, that's good. The Illyrian Reavers here should be able to get onto this other group of skeletons and charge them down here. You can see we're going to get some really good value. And, you know, the Illyrian Reaver Archer variant still has a decent charge bonus, and like I said, pretty good combat stats while their martial prowess is active. So we get in there, get a nice little surround. In the meantime, he does have a fairly big formation of skeletons kind of, pinned up here. And the Phoenix is going to be coming down the Fiery Convocation. And it looks like we're going to get some okay value. So you can see the Skeleton Spears at 110 models. And let's see how much damage it does. So it doesn't do too much against the Skeleton Warriors, a couple hundred. But it really wrecks those Skeleton Spears and does a ton of HP damage. So a lot of people actually cut that ability, but I think it's worth bringing. I mean, even if it forces your opponent to micro, it's still worth it in my opinion. So Cetra did overextend in the back a little bit, and I was able to get some good damage from my Noble and Teclis, but he's able to get away pretty quickly, and my opponent reacts very, very well. He gets some of his Tomb Guard and sends his Ushabti Great Bows and melee to take them out, so definitely tough stuff there. In the back, though, the Chosen of the Gods very beat up. The Illyrian Reavers doing a good job just charging them while they're taking bolt thrower fire, so just really minimizing their effectiveness. But the front line's looking pretty grim. You can see my Spearmen here holding, and this is kind of what I think this is the way the metagame's developed for the High Elves. Like, you don't really need to bring the elite infantry, maybe like one group, but had he gone like Arc in the Black and had Fate of Boon, it would have been really punishing. So, but the Spearmen are holding really well and allowing my other units in the back line to harass, and you can see another charge coming in here from the Illyrian Reavers on those Skeleton Archers, netting some pretty good value. So my Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers are running out of ammunition, though. You can see I'm at about 25% on each of these, and as you can see, there's still a lot of battle to be fought here. So I would still say they're doing their job, the 3 of them working together. I've really taken out those Ushabti Great Bows. There's one group here that have 6 models. The other ones, I think, are all dead. So yeah, it just must be these Ushabti Great Bows that are left. I think, yeah, only 6 of them, and I don't think there's any other ones on the battlefield. So now that my front line is kind of being compromised a little bit, these Spearmen over here are doing a great job holding. They're barely taking any damage against essentially 3 groups of infantry. If you add up their costs, are a lot more than these Spearmen. And they've actually managed to do some decent damage. In the back, I'm just trying to harass and get as much value as I can out of these Illyrian Reavers, just working on these Skeleton Archers and the Ushabti Great Bows, because then my opponent has to advance through the swamps, and it's going to be very, very slow and drudging. So I still do have a Noble and Teclis, but I think my other Noble did get taken out earlier by Cetra. Cetra obviously very powerful on that mighty War Beast. And now that my front line is compromised, you can then pull your Spearmen, and these things are almost out of ammunition. But something that I really didn't take into account is the fact that he still does have an Ushabti summon. So I send all my Spearmen up to the front line right here. They're going to be mucking up these Skeleton Warriors because in order to win this matchup, you really need to maximize the efficiency. Every single one of these Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower shots needs to go into an appropriate target. Otherwise, it's going to be very tough to take out the constructs. So we're just shooting in here. I think I started working on Cetra because I was like, all right, if I can kill Cetra, maybe I can just outgrind these Skeleton Warriors in the swamps and get some good value that way. So I'm targeting Cetra. Teclis and my Noble, in the meantime, are just going to be sitting and waiting. I didn't want them to get mucked up in a situation versus like Skeletons where they do that leaping attack animation and they kind of get overextended. So I was just kind of being really conservative with them and trying to pick my fights. So the Spearmen are holding off the Skeleton Hordes here who are in critical binding, and the High Elf Spearmen are in pretty good leadership. You can see they're holding on. I have lost a couple of groups just through attrition here, but for the most part, the High Elves are doing a pretty good job of staying in the fight. But Cetra is going to be able to buckle these formations very well, and there is that fat, juicy Realm of Souls. So the Realm of Souls is going to be very punishing here, just healing up a massive amount of skeletons. And I do get a net of Emitalk on Cetra, and I get a good rear charge right here. So the Noble and Teclis jump right on Cetra, and they're going to be getting those bolt thrower shots. But you can see the blessed, what is that? Something of Petra, the Wrath of Petra. He's able to knock back my spearmen, which is really bad because then the floodgates open. The tomb guards, which can just crush spearmen, are going to be jumping through. Teclis gets a little bit surrounded, but I am getting some really good damage on Cetra. So Cetra is getting quite low, and my noble, I think, it got pushed back and is able to escape, but Teclis is a little bit surrounded, so I was a little bit nervous about the situation here. But those bolt throwers still just working their way in, doing some good work, and Teclis was able to escape, which is huge. But here comes a big turning point. So in the back, he's able to summon some Ushapti. I had some spears back there, some very tattered ones, and they're not going to be able to stop these Ushapti. But for the most part, I only have like 2 shots left here. I think I have like 1 or 2 left on these guys, and then this one on the far side is actually out of ammunition. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's more than welcome. I think that's actually better that these guys got used here instead of like having them summoned behind some of these spearmen to really just kind of break my front line. But you can see the battle is very even. Bounce power is just dead in the center. Cetra the Imperishable in pretty good shape here. Only 37 kills, but a lot of this battle for Cetra has been spent fighting like elite troops. The High Elf Spearmen here, I do have 88 models. I also have a fairly big group of 52 coming from the backside of the battlefield. But what's going to be really tough for me is taking out his elite troops. So his tomb guards and things like that have very high melee defense. Spearmen have relatively low melee attack, so it's going to be hard to trade effectively with those guys. And I think there's going to be even more penalties in the swamp, which is going to definitely favor Cetra on this giant beast here. So, but I still do have Benedict. He's going to be back here riding dirty. He is at his healing cap, so there's going to be no more of that potion of Koroi. But him and the Noble are doing a very good job kind of securing the back line, because I was figured might as well protect these cannon crews. I'm going to need them to fight. I think everything is going to matter in this game. And you can see that Cetra and the Noble are in here just kind of cleaning up these Ushapti. We're getting very low because as summoned units do degenerate, we should be able to get them down pretty quickly. So I think he also has the Regiment of Renown of the Spear. So he has Skeleton Spears here. I'm not sure if he has them like the King Nekesh's Scorpion Legion. He does. And I think these guys do have some sort of regeneration of their own, or what is their... Oh man, 47 melee defense on those guys is pretty insane. And they also have Poison. Poison going to be very good. So they are fighting off my Spearmen here. You can see my Spearmen are getting pushed back. Cetra comes in and is probably going to tear out those guys, if not just regular break them. So definitely anyone's battle at this point. Once the Ushapti summons are off the battlefield, you guys have probably noticed the bounce power most likely will shift back towards the middle, and now it's just going to be a grind fest. So I have my 2 characters here. I have the Noble and I have Teclis, and I'm just trying to hunt down Cetra. So I'm like, if I can get my paws on Cetra, we're going to be in okay shape. I have 10 Illyrian Reavers coming back in. I'm just trying to get a charge, do as much damage as I can. I probably should have saved him, and I actually made a big mistake here. So I thought that Teclis and my Noble were free of this formation, so I used a net. It's like, all right, I'm going to net down Cetra here, get a good charge, a timing charge with my Illyrian Reavers, but unfortunately, I wasn't quite out of that formation. There's like 1 or 2 skeletons just blocking me up. It's definitely buying a lot of time for Cetra, so that net was very wasted, and it gives my opponent a lot of time to react there. So big mistake on my part. I still do eventually get out. You can see I get out of the formation. Teclis gets in there and gets a decent little rear charge, but there is going to be a Narrows incantation of protection going down on Cetra, which is going to give that 44% ward save. So Cetra is still at 1800 HP. Teclis is in pretty good health. I'm able to get a regrowth right here on this Noble, which is going to be very solid because the Noble will trade pretty effectively here. And I'm just desperate at this point. I'm like, all right, I need to take down Cetra. He needs to die. He needs to go. So I do get both my units here. He's at 1500 HP, and this is definitely good. I'm getting some very open attacks. I do have some High Elf Spearmen that are holding back the tides of King Nekesh's Scorpion Legion. So he's definitely going pretty well. And you can see Cetra's getting low, 1100 HP. The Noble really coming in hard here with that anti-large bonus. But Teclis is also taking quite a bit of damage from Cetra. So just back and forth fight here. I have 53 Spearmen holding off this tide right here. Right here, I only have 29. I have my Bolt Thrower crews and a couple other units on the far side. But for the most part, it's a very close, just barren battlefield. So 487 HP here, and Cetra looks to be crumbling. And for the most part, I think the Noble is going to finish off Cetra, and you can see Cetra does indeed fall in the swamp. So the High Elf Noble and Teclis are able to take down the Foul Constructs with the help of the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, and Cetra will forever remain in these swamps. So now it's basically just a grind fest. And what was really scary, I was like, oh man, he has so many spears. He has the King Nekesh's Scorpion Legion. And I really was like, how am I going to take these guys out? Because the Noble and Teclis are both anti-large, or not anti-large, but they're large entities. So they're going to be suffering a penalty and also getting poisoned here. So at this point, a little bit of a shimmying around the battlefield. I'm just trying to regroup all my troops here. So I have my Spearmen, my Cannon crews, my Bolt Thrower crews, I should say. They're not actually cannons. So I'm just trying to get everything I can together and have like a big blob fight. And hopefully Teclis and the boys will be able to pull it out. So we engage here. A couple of his guys are low leadership, but it's just a grind fest here in the swamps. And you can see the High Elf Spearmen in a very valiant fight, just holding off these tides. The Noble does get a little bit overextended, but I still do have the encouragement and a couple other abilities here. I probably should have been cycle charging, just getting the Noble and just charging and pulling back and charging and pulling back. Teclis is kind of, just trying to fight and generate some value here with some of these spearmen, but these are Tomb Guard. Tomb Guards are not pushovers. They're going to put up a great fight. I do get a Flaming Sword of Ruin, so I suppose it's not the time in the battlefield or the battle where I should be cycle charging. I think just trying to net as much value as I can while I have troops is good. I think once you run out of troops is probably the time you want to be cycle charging. So for the most part, the noble is surrounded. Teclis and the boys aren't able to actually take out those Tomb Guard, who do have a couple chevrons now. So this is the point where I probably should have pulled back, and it looks like I'm trying to path away here and just get back to some of my spearmen. But, I mean, arguably, you could have just been grabbing those 2 units and just cycle charging nonstop on those guys, and probably would have been able to pull it out. It's hard to say, because he still has those spearmen with poison, so he probably could have just braced, and I would have never been able to kill him. And, ultimately, I think I didn't really have a chance there of winning at the end. But a very, very close fight, very well played to my opponent. That was definitely one of the more fun battles and just engaging and back and forth I've had in a long time. But I just wanted to show you guys this replay to really show you that. I know Romulan Dog is a very good high-level player, tournament player, and a lot of people are saying like High Elves don't really have a chance against Tomb Kings. It's very hard to deal with the constructs, and typically High Elves do have a lot of trouble dealing with like large armored entities, and it's something they struggle with. But I think the Bolt Doors are really good. I mean, you saw how effective they were against Ushabti Great Bows and things like that, and having that very like spread out formation where you're far back and then layers and layers of defense. So they get through the front line, you pull through a second wave of spearmen, you're cycle charging with your dragon princes and netting down high value targets with the nobles and Teclis. I think it's a very cool strategy, and it can definitely work. So very well played to my opponent Romulan Dog. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing Doctor Strange in action. So have an excellent night, guys, and take care.